Namaste and welcome to Vedanta, the River of Wisdom podcast, a podcast that brings to you the ancient flowing tradition of wisdom that reveals you are pure being having a human experience. I am Swamini B, a Vedanta teacher and a Hindu monk, and your guide by the side. Let us flow, you and I, on the banks of the river of wisdom.
In our younger days, time seems like a forever friend as our life's experiences stretch on. As seasons change and the decades pass, we become more conscious of the effects of time on our lives, aging, and decline in body capacities. Time especially looms large when faced with the death or illness of a loved one, or even of oneself. In the Vedic tradition, Kala or time is considered a devata and worshipped. The worship of time allows us to not take our time for granted. Since we can never really know the amount of time we have left in our lives, we make the most of it. Some of us fear time as it ebbs away. However, there is someone whom even Kala Devata fears. He is known as Kalabhairava, a fierce form of Lord Shiva. Bhairava originates from the word Bhiru, which means fearsome. So Bhairava means a terribly fierce form. He's also the one who destroys fear or one who is beyond time. In the Hindu month of Kartika, in the fortnight of Krishna Paksha, the waning moon, on the 8th day, generally in November or December, Kalabhairava Jayanti, the appearance of Bhairava, is celebrated. The Shiva Purana tells us that Lord Brahma and Vishnu were having a conversation in which Vishnu inquired of Brahma, "Who is the supreme creator of the universe?" Arrogantly, Brahma told Vishnu to worship him as the supreme creator. Later, Brahma thought, "Oh well, I have 5 heads. Shiva also has 5 heads, and I can do everything that Shiva does, so I am Shiva." Brahma became a little arrogant as a result of this. Additionally, he began to forget the work of Shiva and also started interfering in what Shiva was supposed to be doing. Consequently, Shiva threw a small strand of hair from his head, which assumed the form of Kalabhairava, and casually went to cut off one of Brahma's heads. The skull or kapala of Brahma is held in the hands of Kalabhairava. Brahma's pride was destroyed, and from then he became more useful to the world and deeply grateful to Shiva. The head of Brahma stuck to Bhairava's left palm due to the papa of killing Brahma. To atone for this act, Bhairava had to perform the vow of a Kapali, wandering the world with the skull as his begging bowl. It is said that his papa was finally nullified when he reached the holy city of Kashi, and the skull dropped there, which is known as Kapala Mochana. Sure enough, a beautiful, powerful temple of Kalabhairava has been built in Kashi. In Kashi, he oversees the task of maintaining law and discipline through presiding over the karma accounts of jivas. He is referred to as Kashi Ka Kotwal, which literally means the chief police officer of Kashi. Fear of him keeps people on the path of dharma. Sri Kalabhairava is specifically worshipped for success, wealth, health, and removal of obstacles. A devotee is freed from the effects of papa and the fear of death. He appears fearful because all fear is rooted in the ahankara, the limited sense of self. Death seems to be the most fearful of all human experiences because at that instance, the sense of self, which binds the mind to the physical, is snapped and causes a shock to the person if he or she is not prepared for death. Also known as Kshetrapala, the protector of the 8 directions, he can pray too for the protection of your place, extending all the way to the protection of the country, such that its citizens uphold dharma. Aghoris and people practicing Tantra particularly pray to this form of Shiva as Bhairava. His state of boundless freedom is depicted as Shiva residing in a cremation ground where there are no more attachments, holding a skull, drinking wine indicative of divine intoxication, cohabiting with women representing the union with Shakti who are drawn to him, and other beings who are drawn to him as they are unconventional and outside the bounds of society. Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya composed Kalabhairava Ashtakam to worship him. It is a set of 8 very powerful verses which, if chanted at least on an Ashtami, the 8th day, will bless the devotee immensely. The refrain is Kashika Puradhinath Kalabhairavam Bhaje. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Our Puranas share that Kashi is the center of the universe. The one who presides over us, who blesses us with wisdom, is Shiva, both as Dakshinamurti, Shiva as the teacher, as well as Kalabhairava, the fierce form of Shiva. Adi Shankaracharya had also written a profound set of verses called Kashi Pantakam, where he draws parallels between Kashi the city and Kashi, which also means light, the luminous one, that is the Atma, that is you. You can check out the link to the video playlist, which is in the description of this episode. For now, we look at the glorious and powerful meaning and blessing of Kalabhairava Ashtakam. Devaraj Sevyamana Pavanangri Pankajam Vyalayagnya Sutramindu Shekharam Kripakaram Naradadi Yogi Vrindavanditam Digambaram Kashika Puradhinatha Kalabhairavam Bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, whose lotus feet are served by Indra, the king of the Devas, who wears a snake as the sacred thread, who has the moon on his forehead, who is Kripakaram, extremely compassionate, who is praised by sage Narada and other yogis, and who is Digambara, clothed by space and its directions, signifying that he is ever free. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Bhanukoti bhaswaram bhavabdhitarakam param Neelakantamipsitarthadayakam trilochanam Kalakalamambujakshamaksha Kashika Puradhinatha Kalabhairavam Bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, who has the brilliance of 1,000,000 suns, who helps us cross over the ocean of worldly living of birth and death, which is characterized by constant becoming as one is not enough. Bhairava, who is the limitless, who has a blue neck as he swallowed the poison so that the world could be protected? Who bestows us with what we desire? Who has 3 eyes, the third eye standing for wisdom? Who is the death of death, meaning timeless as he is untouched by death? And who has lotus-like eyes, whose Trishula trident supports the world, and who is Aksharam, imperishable? We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Shulatankapaşatandapanivadikaranam Shyamakayamadidevamakşaram niramayam Bhima-vikramam prabhum vichitratandav-priyam Kashikapuradhinatha Kalabhairavam bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, who has all his weapons, that are the trident, the hatchet, nose, and club in his hands, whose body is dark, who is the primordial Lord, who is imperishable, and who is beyond diseases of the world, who is the Lord with terrific valor, and who loves the strange, vigorous Tandava dance. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Bhukti Mukti Dayakam Prashastacharu Vigraham Bhaktavatsalastitam Samastaloka Vigraham Vinikwanan Manokya He Makinkani Lasatkatim Kashika Puradhinata Kalabhairavam bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, who is the giver of Bhukti Mukti, worldly prosperity and freedom, and who has an auspicious, pleasing form, who is kind and loving to his devotees, and who stands firm as the deity of all the lokas, who has shining golden bells around his waist, which jingle, creating a variety of pleasing sounds. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Dharma setu palakam twadharma marganashakam karma pasha mochakam susharmadayakam vibhum swarna varna shesha pasha shobhitanga mandalam Kashika puradhinatha Kalabhairavam bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, who is the maintainer of Sanatana Dharma, the universal framework of values that lives in our hearts and comes alive through our actions. He destroys the path of adharma. He does this by leading the devotee towards dharma, by whispering in his heart the right thing to be done. For those who prefer experiential learning, he allows the consequences of our karma to unfold. Although he whispered to us that fire is hot, do not put your finger into fire, we still did it, burnt our fingers, literally and metaphorically, and of course learned to move away from adharma. He is the one who liberates us from the bonds of karma, thus revealing the joy of oneself being untouched by karma. Who is adorned with golden snakes encircling his body. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Ratnapaduka Prabhabhiramapada Yukmakam Nityamadvitiyamishtadaivatam Niranjanam Mrityudarpanashanam Karaladamshtramokshanam Kashika Puradhinatha Kalabhairavam bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, whose charming, beautiful pair of feet shine with sandals studded with gems, who is eternal, non-dual, Ishtadevata, and who is stainless and pure. But you said that Sri Kalabhairava appeared. True. And what is also true is that his true nature is timeless, Advitiya, and one without a second, who destroys the pride of Yama, the Lord of Death, which manifests as fear of death within all of us, and whose large, terrible fangs liberate us from the fear of death. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Attahasa bhinna padma janda kosha samtatim दृष्टिपात नष्ट पाप जालमुग्र शासनम अष्ट सिद्धिदायकम कपालमालिकाधरम काशिकापुराधिनाथ कालभैरवं bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, whose loud, terrific laughter destroys all the manifestations, that is, levels of errors we make about ourselves, which is a part of the creation of the lotus-born Brahma, whose terrific glance destroys the net of the powerful and mighty rule of papas in our mind, who bestows the 8 siddhis and who wears a garland of skulls. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. The 8 siddhis are Anima, the ability to reduce one's size; Mahima, the ability to attain a gigantic form; Garima, ability to increase one's weight and become heavy; Laghima, ability to decrease one's weight and be light; Prapti, ability to fulfill desires; Prakamya, ability to adapt, such as transport oneself from one place to the other without any vehicles, live underwater and so on. Ishitva, the ability to influence nature, plants and animals. And Vashitva, the ability to influence people's minds. Bhuta Sanghanayakam Vishalakirtidayakam Kashivasalokapurnyapapashodhakam Vibhum Nitimargakovidam Puratanam Jagatpatim Kashikapuradhinatha Kalabhairavam bhaje. We worship Sri Kalabhairava, who is the ruler of all beings, especially ghosts and spirits, and who bestows great glory to us by revealing the glory of oneself, who is the Lord who absolves people dwelling in Kashi, both from their punya and papa, thus revealing the self in its pristine beauty, who is skilled in guiding us in the path of righteousness, and who is the most ancient, that is, eternal Lord of the universe. We sing praise of Kalabhairava, the Lord of Kashi. Kalabhairavashtakam patamti ye manoharam jnanamukti sadhanam vichitra punya vardhanam shokamoha dainya lobha kopatapanashanam prayanti kalabhairavangri sannidhim naradhruvam. Last line, usually repeated to indicate the completion of the stotram. Meaning of the verse: those who read the 8 verses, that is Kalabhairavashtakam, with devotion which charms the heart, will be led straight to the goal of knowledge and liberation, Jnana Mukti Sadhanam, and will result in the rise of various auspicious qualities. Reading of this stotram destroys shoka, sorrow; moha, delusion; dainya, wretchedness; lobha, greed; kopa, anger; tapa, afflictions. And after death, the devotee will surely attain the feet of Sri Kalabhairava. As you can see, it is such a glorious stotram, and just by chanting it, you feel the rise of strength and devotion to Kalabhairava. Through worshipping our devas, we learn to be in harmony with our world and its many manifestations, including time. We seek grace for all our pursuits, particularly moksha. Having heard this, you might want to add one more stotram to be sung with much joy, if not every day, at least on an Ashtami, the 8th day of the new moon or full moon. May Sri Kalabhairava bless us all. Om Bhairavaya Namaha.
You matter. Your life matters. What you do with your life matters. Thank you for listening.